Welcome, y'all. It's Wes with DIY Food Plot Pro. Thank you so much for joining us. Today's episode, we're going to talk about something that is major impact right now for a lot of deer hunters. We've been getting pictures of these giants all summer long, and all of a sudden the velvet is beginning to shed, and we're starting to wonder, are these bucks about to leave, or maybe some of them already have left for their fall ranges? So we're going to talk about today of whether we can change that pattern. Can we make them stay here by adding food, by adding cover, by doing TSI, by adding diversification, large sanctuaries, things like that? Can we change that fall range to our farm on mature bucks? My name's Wes. I run the channel DIY Food Plot Pro. I've got a Bachelor of Science in Agronomy. I farm for a living, and I got a 2,900 acre whitetail deer hunting outfitter in Western Kentucky where we cannot bait. So we rely heavily on the food plots that I produce on this channel to help harvest and hold the mature bucks that we're blessed to hunt here in Western Kentucky. It happens to every one of us. If we're being honest about it, we'll get pictures of some giants all summer long in velvet on those soybean fields, on the edge of those corn fields, alfalfa, clover plots, and then all of a sudden this time of the year, mid-September, early September, we start seeing the velvet shed, and slowly but surely, these bucks start disappearing. They start dispersing to their fall ranges. Now, some of that is going to be bucks just moving around being bucks, okay? They're going to start laying down that fall sign, those rubs, those scrapes, things like that, that they're getting ready to use during the rutting season. A lot of times, though, we have new bucks show up on properties that we're hunting that we've never seen before, and all of a sudden just become a resident there during the fall and hunting seasons. And those are the places that we really need to look at what's going on there. Why are those bucks showing up there? And can we do anything to prevent our bucks from going to those properties? And what can we do to make our property the property that all those bucks leave and come to, so that we have a chance to hunt them? Because it doesn't do you any good to have 3 170s on your property during the summertime months if the 1st of September comes, they shed, and then they're gone and you don't see them again until January or February. So we need these bucks to be on our farm. We need them bedding on our farm to have the best chance at killing these mature bucks that we're all looking for. Can we switch a mature buck, a 4, 5, 6-year-old buck? Can we switch his fall range by coming in, and you can see that I added a tremendous amount of cover behind us. We did a thick TSI in here last winter, planted a bunch of chestnut trees as well. We've got a lot of soybeans, alfalfa, turnips. Can we move him and move him onto our farm? And the answer is more than likely not. He's already got a pattern going to what he has been doing. It's been working for him. He's gotten of age doing that, okay? So the chances of you taking a 5-year-old that always fall pattern somewhere else and getting him to stay here because you did some clear cutting and added some trees and added some food is wishful hoping, in my opinion. It's not likely going to happen that way. I wished it was, but it typically doesn't. Typically, what I've seen, this starts with the younger generation of bucks and then works their way up. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get those 2 and 3-year-old bucks to stay here. So when they're 5 and 6, you've got deer to hunt here that are staying here during the fall. Now, there are some definite things that I see across the 2,900 acres when I look at this, because we have this fall shift every year, no question about it. And I've seen farms that will pick up deer, and I've seen a lot of farms that will lose deer. And so I think there is a pattern there that I've seen over the years of why this happens and what we can do on these properties to ensure that we're the ones picking the bucks up and not losing them. So typically in the summertime, you're gonna find bucks in a patch of woods like I'm standing in now. Open timber, very shaded. You can see, I mean, it's full canopy here. It's cool underneath here. It's a good 15 degrees cooler here than it is out in the sunlight right over there. These bucks typically stay in their big velvet groups, and they're gonna stay near a summer food source, and they're gonna stay closer to wide open timber. That's just my general assessment of what happens on my farm. Not saying that that's the case every single time. I certainly have bucks that are living in and around thickets, but for the most part, they're looking for wide open timber. They're looking for close to a quality food source that they're looking for, whether that be alfalfa, clover, soybeans, anything that's highly preferred during the summer months. That's where they're typically going to be. When I start seeing this transition, it's typically farms that have a tremendous amount of deer using that farm during the summertime. Those are the ones that are typically losing the bucks. The properties that don't have as many bucks during the summertime are typically the ones that are gaining a lot of the bucks. I think that is because of the cover aspect of it. The farms that I have that are extremely thick, basically a stick it through and through, those are the properties that I'm picking and gaining bucks every single fall on. If you don't have those thick areas on your property, I would encourage you to reach out to me, schedule a visit, and we can do some TSI on your property and get these areas thickened up in a way that you can hunt this property without boogering these deer, and you can have a lot of thick areas on your property that will hold those mature bucks in the fall and wintertime months. Cover is the main thing that holds whitetails to an area. Certainly food does as well. It's kind of a whole package deal. It's like kind of a puzzle that you're putting all together. You've got to have food, you got to have no human intrusion, and you've also got to have the thick cover. And if you have those three things, eventually, now you may be starting with 2-year-olds, but you will eventually hold a good number of mature bucks, whatever mature bucks are in your area. So if your neighbors are shooting every 2-year-old in the world, you're going to get some of the oldest age class of bucks in your property if you have those areas set up for them to where there's a lot of cover and a large sanctuary area. A lot of folks like to have a big sanctuary, but then they like to hunt right in the center of it. They like to put a food plot right in the center of their property. Then they have to access it. They're blowing their wind all over the property. And that's never a good thing for whitetail hunting, because even if you didn't get blown at that time, a lot of times big bucks don't blow. You may not even know that you screwed up, but he may have got your wind. He's out of dodge. He knows he got you now. So he knows exactly where that stands at. He knows exactly you were in there. He may not know that you were hunting him, but he knows for sure that you were in there, and your chances of harvesting that deer just went down very low. The big thing that we can do to set these properties up to where we're gaining bucks in the fall is going to be adding that thick cover, adding that food, and keeping those large sanctuary areas for the whitetails to feel comfortable with zero human intrusion, and then also to have places that we're hunting that are not deep into those woods. You just don't know how many times when I go to the property visits or when I'm talking to hunters that come in to deer hunt, we start talking about where they're hunting at on their farms, and food plots and cover and things like that comes up. And, you know, they'll pull an aerial up and they'll show a big food plot right in the center of the property. This is where I hunt at right here. And it's like, how do you get in there? You know, how do you hunt this effectively without blowing deer out on the way in, on the way out? Where does your scent go that's a good zone that's not going to bother anything when it leaves? There's a lot of things to putting all these puzzles together to make these farms better in the fall and wintertime months, that we can attract and hold more mature whitetails on these properties to hunt. Many of the guys that I talk to through the consultation visits don't have a tremendous amount of cover, but the ones that do, rest assured, they are holding a tremendous amount of whitetails. If you have the cover in the fall, you'll eventually have the bucks. That's just that simple on how all this works. And those mature bucks absolutely require to be left alone and to have a lot of cover where they feel comfortable. They're not going to be in the same place that a 2-year-old or a 1.5-year-old buck's going to be in. They don't feel comfortable. And a lot of folks think, well, I've got woods, that's cover. Well, this is not cover. This looks like a field. I mean, I could shoot 100 yards through this woods. This is not cover. A big buck does not feel comfortable in this area right here. Now, if you can see the clear cut that I made up there, all the green on that side of the screen, a big buck does feel comfortable in there because the grass is this high. All that vegetation where that sunlight's hitting the ground has just exploded. It's gotten tremendously tall. A big buck feels extremely comfortable there, as do does. So that's going to be a prime bedding spot for those does. And then those bucks are going to be cruising this line that I've made now, checking for those hot does during the pre-rut time. You hold the does on your property, you have thick, good quality cover on the property, you have the food, and you have large sanctuaries, you are 100% going to hold those mature bucks during the fall. Sorry to say, I don't believe that you will change that buck's fall range and make him switch from this farm that he's falled on for 3 or 4 years and all of a sudden put him right here. I just don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think that you're going to mess with those results. He's lived a long time by going to that property and not being shot. He's going to continue going back there. And a lot of times this doesn't make sense. Sometimes this doesn't. You can have all the limiting factors fixed on your property, right? You can have all the cover, all the food, all the sanctuary areas, but those 4 and 5 year old deer are still likely going to leave. We have to start at the bottom and start holding the 2 and the 3 year old deer here, and then we have a chance to start hunting them generation after generation after generation. If you need help setting up your deer hunting farm, I've got a website set up, www.DIYFoodplotPro. Be glad to come to your property, walk it with you to see some of the things that you're dealing with in your area and how we can fix that and better that hunting on the property by adding some of these things as TSIs and adding the food and adding access routes and things like that. So if that's something that interests you, go to www.DIYFoodplotPro.com and click contact us. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Y'all smash that like and subscribe button.